How we doing? This is Fox back again. Another Hive tutorial today. Today I'm going to show you how to make a classic pulse width mod lead. I'll say classic, it's how I do them. I've got two pulse waveforms, 1 octave apart from each other. Both of the pulse widths modulated with an LFO, separate opposite ways to give it a bit of movement in opposite directions. Sub-oscillator 1 is a pulse which is being modulated as well by something separate, a different envelope. And then some noise on a sub-oscillator 2. And this is what we get. That pumping you can hear is from the sidechain compression. I'll turn that off quick so you can hear it without. Got a bit of phaser set to the flange mode as well, giving us a bit more movement as well. But there you have it, lovely, rich pulse width mod sound. So yeah, just quickly, this is from a track that I did on my live stream on Saturday. So I did a track start to finish in the live stream. Pretty basic track, Hard Trance track. This is the lead from that track. If you want, excuse me, if you want to download this, not download it, if you want to buy this project file you can, sorry, the link will be in the description. I'll be going through some of the other sounds that I made within this. It's not just Hive, I used various different synths for this. There's a couple of serum ones, a massive one and a virus patch. So yeah, but for now we are going to go ahead and initialize this. This is what you get, starts off with one saw wave. So as I said, it's a pulse width mod, so we're going to change oscillator 1 to a pulse, oscillator 2 to a pulse. Uncheck these two boxes. We're not going to route everything through any filter actually, but we're just going to want all. We'll be doing all the work on this side. So oscillator 1, sub oscillator 1, and oscillator 2 are all pulse waves. So change them all to a pulse. These three lines mean that you can modulate the pulse. If you set them to a half or a narrow or even a square, the pulse width is not modulatable. You need to make sure it's set to a pulse. Real bland at the minute. We're going to give 8 voices of unison to oscillator 1, and we're going to detune it around to about 15. We're going to give 16 voices of unison to oscillator 2. We're going to detune this a little bit further, around to about 33. Keep both the widths on maximum. Keep the pan dead center. For the sub oscillator 1, which we've set to a pulse, we want this to be 2 octaves down, which it comes as standard. Oscillator 2 needs to be 1 octave up. So we've got 1 on the standard octave, which when you're playing on a C3 note, which I'm not, so I add this transpose down. I'm going to transpose this down 1 octave so it was how you sounded it. But what you need to do is make sure these are 3 separate octaves apart. So I add oscillator 1 on 0, oscillator 2 on 1 octave, and the sub oscillator 1 2 octaves down. So it's a nice spread across the spectrum. We're going to bring the volume in for the sub oscillator around to about 12 o'clock. Gives a nice bit of low end depth. Sub oscillator 2 we're going to click on now. This one I had as a white noise. This just adds a bit of fuzz and just helps thicken the sound up. Semitone doesn't matter because you can't pitch white noise. The volume I had at about 23. Okay, we'll set the effects up before we start the modulation. It's a real simple patch really. We are going to distort this and we are going to use the fold back distortion. Turn the mix right down. Keep the tone on about 42. And the amount I had around to about 10. And then we're going to push the mix around to almost maximum. Maybe turn the white noise volume down a little bit. The engine mode I chose was clean. I'll cycle through the three of them. This is the one that I thought sounded the best. Not much different on a patch like this where it's distorted and you got some white noise, but yeah, I chose the clean one anyway. The only other effect I used was a phaser. Click it, turn it on. I changed it to a flanged, so it's a flangering effect. The rate I pulled right down to about 28. Feedback about 18. Stereo quite wide, around 32. And the dry wet around to about 71. I'll turn the wet out and then I'll bring it in so you can hear the effect it's having. With a slow rate in that stereo on, it appears that it's only sort of modulating the white noise part of the sound, which is what we wanted, because all the rest of the modulation is now going to be done with an LFO and mod envelope 1. So yeah, the main LFO that I did to modulate the pulse widths, I used LFO 1. I kept it on triangle. I pushed the phase around to about 25%, so it didn't start right at the start of the triangle wave. The rate, I synced it to a clock and set it to 4/1. So it's going to set 4 bars, is it, or 4 beats? I think it's 4 bars. So it's quite a gradual modulation which we've got going on. And I'm going to, in this box, choose that for LFO 1 as the modulation source. And the destination is going to be the pulse width for all three of the pulse width things, pulse width oscillators. So click this, drag it on the wave box there, and the wave box there. Second slot for oscillator 2. Oscillator 1 I had negative, it's about 68. Oscillator 2 I had positive, about the same, 62. Maybe change the rate to 2/1 so it's a little bit quicker. You can hear that constant movement because we're using an LFO. Put a sweep in the pulse width up and down. For the sub oscillator, because it's a lot lower, I just wanted one constant sweep. So I decided to use a mod envelope. So in the second source box, I don't want to do that. In the second source box, I chose mod envelope 1, which is this, and I dragged it to the pulse width, which is the actual wave shape box. Pulse width for the sub oscillator. I dialed it positive, so it was going to sweep the pulse width up, so it's gradually getting thinner. And this is how I set it up. No attack, no sustain, tiny bit of release. So the length is then controlled by decay. This is the amount of time it's going to take for it to sweep through that pulse width. I had it just past 50%, around about 60. I'll solo this sub oscillator 1 so you can hear what effect it's having. You can gradually hear the pulse width moving from thick to thin, going from a square to a thin pulse. Bring in oscillator 1, 2, sub 2. That's it. I often use reverb on leads, but I say this was really thick with the white noise and all the modulation and that. It didn't need it. So yeah, that's it. Nice simple patch, classic pulse width mod lead. I'll play it with the track and the beating and everything so you can hear it sitting in the track itself. Turn the sidechain compression back on. there you go. Classic pulse width mod lead using U-He Hive. Really impressed with this synth. Fucking absolutely love it. Definitely going to get it when it comes out. Smashing silence out of the water. So I do private lessons if you're interested. There'll be a link in the description also if you want to learn how to use Hive or any of the synths that I do. Get in touch with me. I'm available most evenings, Greenwich Mean Time, London time, from 8 o'clock till about 10 or 11. So yeah, get in touch if you're interested in lessons, but for now that's it. Thanks for watching. Cheers.